Welcome to MLS Roundup from We Are Soccer. I'm your host, Craig Hearn. All right, today we're going to talk about some coaching moves that have happened recently, and then we're going to chat about the MLS Best XI that have come out on a list from the MLS. All right, as usual, I'm joined by our MLS expert, soccer syndicate scout, Brooks Lambier. Brooks, how you doing, man?
I'm good, Craig. How are you?
I'm doing all right, buddy. Kind of looking forward to talking about this. Before we get into the fun part and talk about the MLS Best 11 and some of the players on there, why don't we talk quickly about some of the moves that have happened in the past couple of days for the MLS coaches. So FC Cincinnati are targeting the Philadelphia Union's Jim Curtin. What are you hearing about this? What are your thoughts on this potential move?
Yeah, I'm hearing. Reading and just kind of hearing that they're throwing big money at Jim Curtin. So, and the question is Philadelphia willing to shell out maybe some money to keep him? I think Jim has some time on his contract left. I think. So I think he signed a new one. I can't remember. I think it's till 2023. He's with the Union. But it sounds like with Chris Albright moving to FC Cincy, that he, it's a move that says, hey, one of the front office guys moving to FC Cincy from Philly to Cincy, hey, it's a rebuild here, but you've got more money. We'll get more players for you. Because that's the thing with Philly. It's so academy based, and I mean they do well with the internationals they buy and the the veterans and the senior players, but with FC Cincy has shown that they're not afraid to throw money around
Right.
and to build a team. I guess the question with Jim Curtin is, if you go to FC Cincy, is if he likes the academy structure and very much how Philly kind of ran theirs, is what do you do with the FC Cincy academy? Do you kind of start from scratch? Do you keep the people around? They've signed a few guys, but I mean, I would say they probably don't have a lot of studs in their academy at the moment. And to be fair, they've only, been around for, 3-4 years. They've been around for a long time. So, that's the question is,
what makes Jim Curtin so special? I mean, he's done a pretty good job over there in Philadelphia. Is it just because Chris Albright knows him and has a relationship with him and wants to kind of bring his buddy over? What's your thoughts there? Is it just that he trusts him? Because there are other coaches in the world. You can go get anybody, I guess, but he's kind of targeting Jim Curtin. So you think it's just that he knows him and the working relationship's probably what he likes, Chris Albright does?
I think it's part of that, and I think it's part of what we kind of talked about is just having the domestic coach that knows MLS, that knows the structure, and just knows the league. Like that, that's very important. And I think that would be his first choice. I know I think Pat Noonan was one of them, that the assistant coach for Philadelphia that's been out there. I think I read in The Athletic, Sam Stejskal just wrote an article for The Athletic talking about this. I don't know if Pablo Mastroeni has been reached out to maybe interview for the FC Cincy job. I think he may have been for Houston's open position. He may have been out to interview for, reached out for an interview, or they've interviewed him, or they're potentially going to do that. So there are a few other domestic names that have been kind of talked about for this FC Cincy job. But I mean, I think the relationship with Chris Albright has with Jim Curtin and what he's done. And I think it just sounds like FC Cincy from and like we talked about, everything in the marketing, the way they've come up through USL has been superb. Everything off the field has been great. And people love the team. It's everything, on the field and within the team. And, that it sounds like it needs a little churning and some culture brought in. And I think that's one thing that Jim Curtin can bring from Philadelphia if they want to hire him. So I think that's what makes it attractive as well. Domestic, has a culture, has characteristics in a plan, and can change, and also, he'll get a lot of money to get some international players along with hopefully developing the Cincy Academy if that's what his plans are.
And it's a big departure from where they're coming from, right? Yep, Stam was there for a couple of years, and he was a foreign coach who didn't know the MLS, the ins and outs, and the college game, and how things work here in the USA. And you're right. I think probably they're targeting someone like a Jim Curtin, because as you and I have talked before, it's the MLS is such a different league. There's so many different places where you can get kids and players from that you really need to know the league. You really need to know how it operates because it operates so differently from most leagues in the world. So it's a unique league. So you are probably right. And that's honestly one of the reasons that we talked about last week in one of our videos was TFC went and got Bob Bradley, right? Because he knows the league. He knows he's a winner in the league. He knows how it operates. He knows the ins and outs, and he knows the players in the league. He knows the players in the lower divisions. He knows the scouting. So you're right. That's probably a big part of it. Yeah. The other news that's come out is that FC Dallas have announced Nico Estevez as their coach. They've been looking for a coach for a couple months now. There's going to be some turnover in their squad, as we know. Pepe could be going out, so there could be some money for him to spend. Nico Estevez could have some money to spend because Pepe could be going out to Europe. We fully expect that to happen. He's the prized asset, the young won MLS Young Player of the Year award. So they're looking at between $14 and $20 million is the numbers we're hearing that FC Dallas are going to get for the sale of Pepe. But that typically, tell us a little bit about FC Dallas. I know you know a little bit about the club and a little bit how the owners work and a little bit how the academy works there. What are your thoughts on them getting a new coach and what he might be able to do there?
Yeah, so people kind of talk about like MLS 1.0, 2.0, 3.0 teams, like where you're kind of at in the scale, and how some of the teams that, with owners that put money in, but they put enough in where it's operational. Where some teams like the LAFCs, the Atlantas of the world, like the MLS 3.0s, were all out to win every year, whatever you need or within reason.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a logical reason for us to give you more money to invest in certain areas, those are the MLS 3.0. The 2.0s are kind of like, the Revs in a certain way where they've built a training facility, they're starting to invest more money. It's starting to move into the 3.0 stage, like, and FC Dallas is kind of like, they're now like a 1.0 team and like 1.5 heading to a 2, kind of thing where it's been a team where the Hunts, Dan and the Hunts that own the FC Dallas, and they obviously own the Chiefs and some other sports franchises. It's been a team that's really revolved around the academy, and they haven't spent a lot of money, similar to how Philadelphia Union, they don't spend a lot of money on international players to bring in to up the level. And, I think that's something that Nico Estevez is going to have to learn how to deal with. It's going to be a challenge. You have to really think outside the box. The players you're bringing in, are they worth the money if you're going to go get a guy from South America or over in Europe? What players fit well with that market? Because it's Dallas it's so culturally diverse. It's you want players to come in that are going to attract fans. Because that's the one thing. When I watch FC Dallas games, it used to be full all the time, and it's kind of changed a little bit. And if you're going to sell a star like Pepe, I mean, you want to bring in, a name or up to the system, or buy one that's going to, bring fans to the stadium. So, it's going to be a challenge there. So, you got to really think outside the box when you're taking the head coaching job at FC Dallas. And, I like to see FC Dallas and the Hunts, invest a little more money to make that club, something a little more special, because I think they have the potential to do that. But, it's just, it depends how much owners want to invest in teams and what's enough and, what's not enough, right?
You hit the nail on the head. It depends how much the owners want to invest, and that's how the teams get better. That's unfortunately how it works. All right, man. Let's jump in. Let's talk about the MLS Best 11. All right, so the Best 11 is determined by the media, the MLS players, and the MLS club technical staffs. The 11 players that have been picked here that we'll kind of talk about represent 8 nations and only 5 clubs in the MLS, all of which qualified for the 2021 MLS Cup playoffs. All right, why don't we quickly run down the list here? All right, so we've got Gustavo Boy, who had 15 goals and 9 assists this past year and helped the New England Revolution to the best record that any team has ever gotten in the MLS.
Yeah,
I mean, that's pretty good, right? To be able to man that line, that front forward line for the Revs. That's Sure. You put enough balls in the back of the net, you'll get on the best 11 list.
Yeah, him and Busca. Yeah.
Yep. And then next on the list, we got Valentine Castellanos from Nycfc. He's the 2021 MLS Golden Boot winner. And he's going to be missing for their upcoming match, unfortunately,
Yes.
right? But he had a hell of a year. It's going to be a big miss for them.
Yes.
Next on the list, Raul Diaz from Seattle Sounders. Scored 17 times this season. I mean,
it was a big miss for them in the playoffs. I mean,
Yeah.
unfortunately, he didn't play, or he didn't start. So, but when he's running on all cylinders, he is one of the best center forwards in the league, like no doubt. He's scored some wonder goals. His goal in Austin, from the half field, and I think we talked about this game. The kids were playing. It was the academy kids. It was, I think it must have been international break or something, and they lost some players, or they were injuries at the time, and he came off the bench and scored this wonder goal at Austin, and they won the game 1-0. Like, he can do stuff like that. He's been a proven goal scorer since he got into this league, and he's been a huge acquisition. So definitely one of the best in MLS.
Also, 2 years in a row now that he's made the best 11 list.
Yeah.
Under the midfielders, we've got Tajon Buchanan from New England. I mean, another, you win again, you get 73 points or whatever it was, and you win the Supporters Shield with that many points, you're going to have players on this list. He's had a pretty good year. Are your thoughts that he deserves to be on this list, or maybe was there someone else you would replace him with?
Yeah, so, I mean, if we're gonna go by the list, if we're gonna, I mean, they've listed the forwards. Tajon's a midfielder. He's not a midfielder by trait. He's more of a winger forward. I don't like when people do that. I mean, I get that Tajon had a good year, and he's going over to Belgium, to Bruges, I believe. I get that he's had a good year, but I mean, to put him in there over other midfielders like a Damir Kreilach or maybe Lucas Zelarayan that had, and listen, Damir Kreilach, I believe, scored more goals than Tajon Buchanan this year. And then Lucas Zelarayan, I mean, what he meant to Columbus and trying at the end of the season to get them back in the playoff contention, which, they just missed. If certain games have gone a little differently, and injuries didn't kill them throughout the season, we could be talking maybe Columbus is in the playoffs and they're making a run in the Eastern Conference. So, and not taking anything away from Tajon again, but you also had Gustavo Bo and Adam Busca, who scored a lot of goals as well. But again, he's not a midfielder. I don't like that they do that. I'd rather you actually put a legit midfielder in there as a Kreilach or Zelarayan, or, people will boohoo this one, but like how much Diego Chara means to Portland Timbers. And if you watch the Timbers week in and week out, like I do, it's just, he means so much to them defensively. He's a technical player that can play forward. He covers so much ground, and the guy's in his mid 30s, and he's 34, 35, and he's still, I mean, he's lost maybe a half a step, but damn, the guy can cover ground and defend. I mean, him and Xiao Paolo are definitely the two best defensive center mids in the MLS. So, like Kreilach, Zelarayan, or Chara definitely deserved, to be on there. I think at least over Tajon Buchanan in the midfield position.
Yeah, understood. The rest of the midfielders are Carlos Gill, who is also the 2021 MLS Comeback Player of the Year. This is his second selection to the Best 11 as well. Carlos Gill is also up for the Landon Donovan MLS MVP award. That's a bit of a tongue twister. He's one of 5 finalists. I fully expect him to go on and win that. He had 18 assists and 4 goals this year. And just without him in the middle of the field, the Revolution do not do what they did. So he's a big player, and I think he'll go on to win that MVP award. Then we have Xiao Paolo for Seattle Sounders, who had a heck of a year, leading the number 2 seed Sounders into the Western Conference playoffs. Unfortunately, their season came to an end at the hands of RSL, as we've talked about a couple of times. Next in the midfielders, Hani Mukhtar from Nashville. Man, every time I seen this guy play, he just scores goals. He just seems to
Yeah.
put the ball in the back of the net. Dude can score some goals. Had a league high. They recorded a league high 28 combined goals and assists. Hani Mukhtar, when he burst onto
Yeah,
the
the
scene.
German.
Yeah.
The German. I think that's Nate's favorite player in MLS, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, most likely. Oh, any
Yeah.
German is Nate's favorite player. He'll tell you for
Yeah.
sure.
And I don't know.
Um,
He might have played for Stuttgart, right?
Somehow it always leads back to Stuttgart. No matter if he did or he didn't, it'll lead back there.
Yeah.
So that and Mukhtar rounds out the midfielders, and into the defenders we have Miles Robinson for Atlanta. I'll be honest, I didn't watch too many Atlanta games this year, but I did watch him play a heck of a lot for the U.S. men's national team, and I think Miles Robinson has come a long way. I think he's a
Yeah.
really solid player. I'm really happy to see him on there.
Yeah, he
Uh,
was just a quick snippet about Miles. Just I mean, I got to watch him a few times at Syracuse. Some of the other scouts I work with were able to watch him a little more, being in ACC territory, a little closer than I am. Notre Dame's closest for me here in Michigan, which is it's 3.5 hour drive. But
yeah.
Miles was he played academy soccer. I believe he was an all-state basketball player before he did academy soccer, and
Hmm.
he it took him a while to get minutes, when Atlanta drafted him, but I mean, to let him sit and develop, and he didn't play under much. He didn't play under Tata Martino very much, but the next cycle, with DeBoer coming in and then the coaches after, I mean, he's gotten playing time and he's shown how valuable he is to Atlanta and to the U.S. men's national team. So, I mean, I hope at some point he goes over to Europe, because the kid deserves a shot over in Europe. Because I think any European team would be lucky to have this kid in their back line.
I'm sure it'll happen within the next 12 to 18 months. I'm sure he'll
Yeah.
make his way over there because, man, the way he's grown in the last 12 to 24 months, the last 2 years, it's crazy. He's really come a long way.
Yep.
Another defender on the list is Yamar with Seattle. I mean, this is his first full MLS season. And he played on a really good Seattle team that only allowed 33 goals this year. So
Tough physical guy. Like
very physical. I
he
watched quite a
gets
few
it
of his
done.
games. Whew.
Yeah.
Is not someone I would have liked to have played against when I was playing. Dude is physical and quick.
Yes.
Rounding out the defense for the MLS Best 11 is the MLS Defender of the Year, Nashville's Walker Zimmerman, another U.S. men's national team player. Watched him play quite a few games recently for Nashville and U.S. men's national team. Really, really like his leadership on the field. I love watching him play. He reminds me, and I'm going to say this in a very good way, and I'm not going to try and make it in a negative way, but he's a poor man's John Terry. Who puts his body on the line, does what he needs to do, isn't afraid to get in the face of his own players and
Yep.
to get the job done and get them pumped up and playing correctly. But just a good player. I think with another couple of years, he could be a really, really good player. And obviously he's a good player now because he's 2021 MLS Defender of the Year. But
Yeah.
I think he's got what it takes to be one of the all-time great defenders for the MLS for the U.S. men's national team.
Yeah, he's in his prime, so he's got I'm hopefully, knock on wood, if the US men's national team makes the World Cup,
Yeah.
hopefully he's got this cycle and then the next cycle, and
Yeah.
then it'll be great to see. But he's a leader. He is, I've loved him ever since FC Dallas, and then the move to LAFC I think was great for him and what he did for LAFC, and then them selling him to Nashville, which kind of really hurt LAFC in the long run, and what he's meant for the city of Nashville, and that organization. Walker, he deserves, all the credit just of what he is as a player. And if you're Jack Mayer, guy that played 2 years in Indiana that they drafted, what a great guy to learn from. Him and Dave Romney. I mean, you have two great guys and MLS veterans that you can learn from, and Walker and Dave. And that definitely a team that I would love to play with if I was a pro soccer player, to play with Walker's friend.
Yeah, man, it would be great to play alongside of him. Another player who I would not want to play against. He would probably tower over me and probably outweighs me by about 70 pounds and could knock the crap out of me. Goalkeeper of the Year for the Best 11 and the 2021 All-State MLS Goalkeeper of the Year, as voted upon by MLS, is Matt Turner of New England. Man, this guy just came out of nowhere in the past year. Just got thrown in to the U.S. men's national team, and there's a big debate whether it should be him as the number one or Zach Steffen as the number one. I don't care which one of those two is the U.S. men's national team number one goalie, because you're safe with both of them. But Matt Turner is having a heck of a year, especially for someone who didn't pick up the sport of soccer until he was like into high school or something like that, which is crazy to think of, man. It's crazy to think about. Just it's been fun. He's not quite your conventional goalkeeper either. He gets stuff done unconventionally, which are the toughest goalkeepers to play against.
Oh, 100%.
That kind of rounds out the best 11 for MLS. What are your thoughts on that? And I know you'd mentioned a couple of guys who've already missed, but are you happy with that 11? Do you think the media and the MLS players and the technical staff and the coaches missed the mark on it? What do you overall?
No, I think they got it right. They did pretty well. It's tough. Again, I think if Portland and Sebastian Blanco had played the whole year, I think, we talk about, he was playing the way he was playing when he came back the whole entire season. I think his name would be up on there. Again, you want to be in this list, you got to play consistent. And you need to, unfortunately, you need to put up numbers. This is the thing where you got to put up numbers, and there's some guys that I mentioned like Krylak and Zelleran fell a little bit short numbers wise. I think he had 12 goals and like 7 assists for Columbus. You got to be up there in the numbers category, and but again, that doesn't justify that just because this is the MLS Best 11 that these are the best 11 players, talent wise or just overall in the league. This is a voting process, right? This is what other people think, and it doesn't mean that all these guys are going to be on the list next year. So it's all perspective, isn't it?
Yep, exactly. And it's just fun to do and fun to see because it really doesn't have any bearing on anything. So it's just fun to talk about. All right, my friend. Well, thank you for joining. Your wisdom, your insight, and your knowledge that you share with us every week. Very much appreciate it. And we'll be chatting again next week, MLS Roundup. So be sure to join us, folks. Again, Brooks, thanks. Soon.
Thank you, Craig.
Cheers.
Cheers.